You're watching Grassroots Resistance Collective, Texas-grown, people-powered, and unapologetically bold. We expose corruption, amplify real candidates, and give voters the truth the system tries to bury. No spin, no sellouts, just resistance. Let's get to work.
Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 21st. Welcome to the Grassroots Resistance Collective podcast. I am joined by my host, Chastity Wedgeworth, and we are also joined tonight by Theresa Courts. She's an Army National Guard veteran. She's an educator, a school counselor, and I think more importantly, a mother running for the U.S. Congress in Texas's District 38. She's going to be fighting for public education, and we want to say thank you, Theresa, for joining us. And if we could go ahead and just introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on tonight. So as you said, my name's Theresa Courts. I live down in the Houston, Texas area, and I've made my home down here since I graduated from college. I served in the Army National Guard for almost 6 years. I have 5 children, all who came to me through foster care. And I've been an educator this is my 12th year.
Wow. So what made you decide to run?
So the reason I decided to get into running is when I was in the Army National Guard, we learned how to apply tourniquets and pack bullet wounds to prepare for war. And every year in education, we learn how to apply tourniquets and pack bullet wounds to prepare for the next school shooting. Mm-hmm. And Congress, they do nothing except slash our budgets. And I tried to be patient. I tried to wait for our so-called leaders to do something. Then you have Parkland, you have Santa Fe, and then most recently we had Uvalde down here in Texas. And you can't sit by any longer and hope that people who are supposed to help us, supposed to protect our children will, when they just refuse to.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, you kind of put it in perspective there, going from like a warlike background or a war type setting, and you're going through training and you're dressing up adults and you're living that experience, but you have this idea, that's a war zone, and then to put yourself as an educator or a teacher, trying to apply those same practices to these children. Yeah, that's absolutely that's pretty shameful that we have to start preparing our teachers like that. I agree. What type of policy reforms would you bring to the table if you do have any?
So the big thing when it comes to the school shootings, the weapons, is we need to increase gun safety. And most Americans agree about this. We think it is too easily accessible to get very dangerous things. You can go on the internet right now and you can buy a 100 round barrel. I just looked it up a couple days ago and it let me go all the way to checkout. It was going to let me buy it and just ship it straight to me. No one needs access to that. You don't need 100 rounds to go hunting. You don't need 100 rounds to defend your home. And we need to decrease the access to large capacity magazines. We need to increase the wait time, which will help drastically with domestic violence and domestic abuse. So we don't have those anger flashpoints where someone makes a very rash decision, which unfortunately is irreversible. And we need to increase education around safety. Too often we hear stories about children getting a hold of the guns in their household, playing with them, and tragedy strikes.
So do you think also that along with those types of things, do you see anything that, in my opinion, right, like every time that this happens, we come back and we say that the student was a loner. He was obviously, it's almost always a boy, and he's almost always a loner, and we could see this coming from a mile away, yet nobody stepped in. And to me, that seems like, I know for a fact that we've taken away protections for teachers and counselors and, people in your situation to be able to step in and to these parents and say, hey, this kid, we might have a real problem here. We need to do something about this. Or, we're not supporting the family unit in the way that it needs to be supported. Like if we have a single mom that's working multiple jobs and not being able to care for, not saying that she's not caring for the kid, but maybe he's, old enough to be at home alone and he spends a lot of time at home alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not actually witnessing or acknowledging these types of things that, maybe you would have noticed, otherwise. So we're not making lives easier for parents.
Yes, exactly. And I've seen a lot of that. Like I said, every year it seems they're slashing our education budgets. We're having to cut positions on campus. Our caseloads for school counselors are getting higher and higher and higher. The National Association for Counselors, ASCA, recommends $250 per a counselor. Most counselors across the country are working with 800 plus children. So we don't get to know our children individually like that because the budgets are being slashed. We're not having the resources to refer them to for mental health because the budgets are being slashed. And then just recently here in Texas, they passed a law where I have to have parental consent to talk to a student if they're crying. If that student is upset, I have to have parental consent. There's a blank form, and if they didn't fill out, I'd be, oh, sorry, sweetie, I know you're really upset right now, but I got to call your parents and make sure it's okay for me to talk to you. Yeah. And just putting in these kinds of roadblocks just make it so much more difficult to help our students, to keep our schools a healthy, safe environment for students to learn and thrive and find these kinds of issues and help prevent them.
Yeah. That's I was actually going to ask you about the obstacles as a counselor that y'all face, because a lot of the times us as parents, we want we either want the teachers or the staff to like remain kind of like hands off and and keep their distance, but at the same time you do run into those issues where you might have to use your training as a counselor to settle some situations down. What type of policies would you bring in, or what type of reform would you implement at that level?
So first, one of the big things with education is the federal government needs to actually support our schools. So adequate funding so that we can have the smaller class sizes, we can have the smaller caseloads for our counselors. So teachers, counselors, APs, they all get to actually know the students on an individual level. And they can be like, hey, this student over here has really started changing a lot. They've gotten real quiet. I wonder what's going on. Let me be able to talk to them. So actual adequate funding so that we can get to know our students, having the resources so that we can refer them to mental health services. We can provide those on campus, being able to have things on campus like a pantry. We don't have that at my school, so I started one so that I can send food, clothes, hygiene products home with my students who need it, because some of them don't have it over the weekend. We're a Title I school where everybody gets free breakfast and lunch, but that leaves them out on the weekend. And teachers are having to dig into their own pockets to do these kinds of things. So on the federal level, first and foremost, we need to guarantee a minimum wage for teachers, because 1 in 6 teachers are working 2, 3, 4 jobs so they can afford their teaching habits, which means they're burnt out. They're not able to give everything like they want to their students. Teachers often spend, on average this year, it was about $900 to $1,000 on their classroom, but your tax credit for teachers is only $250. We could expand that to give them more access. And just giving more resources, more funding to students, because we don't want the federal government to take over all of education. That is one of the things left up to the states, but we can still better support and better provide those resources and training to teachers and schools to keep everybody safe and healthy.
Yeah, I know of a few teachers personally who it's the same story with and they don't even know each other, and it's the same exact story. They aren't paid enough, and they usually work for Amazon or DoorDash or something like that. Now they all, and honestly, look, thinking back now, I remember seeing my teachers growing up working like at HEB or something like that while I was with my parents outside of school. So this has always been an issue, and it's been an issue for a real long time. And yeah, the funding, that's just a huge thing, the funding, and then them taking away schools that we already have and a lot of the infrastructure that is already there. Let's see.
I
Sorry.
I was sorry. I had a meeting last week with an independent school district, and they were saying that their biggest problem was mandates that are not funded mandates. Like they were required to get all of this like security stuff updated in the school and mandated to do it, but no funding to do it.
There's no backing for it. That seems like it shouldn't even be on the. That shouldn't be like a policy if you're not going to fund it. That's
yeah,
so
and you
backwards to me.
Yeah, and you have Texas that brags they have this huge surplus in their Texas budget, but then they don't want to provide the proper supports for schools to be safe.
Yeah,
to have the security to make sure people aren't getting into the building. Because Uvalde, for example, the door that the person got in through had been broken for months, and they put in multiple work orders. But when the school is not funded, when they're short-staffed, it's hard to stay on top of everything.
Yeah. So at the federal level, because you're running for a federal position, how do you think that you could influence that federally?
Part of that would be creating grants for individual schools that go to the school and not the state, because sometimes you'll see issues when it's funneled through the state. It doesn't always get exactly to the school the way you want it to. That's why with special education, the Department of Ed is so big, because they ensure that the funding for special ed is spent on special ed. So we need to do a similar thing with our infrastructure and our security, making sure that, hey, we want to give this school $5 million, and that is for rebuilding their security and updating their cameras, updating their locking doors. Then they can make sure that's what it goes to. So having those grants and those funding for different schools around the country to help them work with states on best practices. A big part of that, I think, is going to be actually unleashing the CDC. For years, they were not allowed to study gun violence. Recently, that had changed, but now the funding's been cut. So instead of treating the gun violence like the epidemic that it is, along with the mental health crisis, we're just pretending it doesn't exist and not allowing data to be collected and best practices to be determined.
Yeah,
that's so unfortunate. As far as funding goes in education, do you have any thoughts on student loan reform and interest reduction?
Yes. So I think, first of all, going forward, student loans need to be 0% interest rates so that students are just paying for what they take out. Now, there could be like an origination fee at the beginning that, we'd work with people across the aisle to figure out, maybe 2%, 5%, what have you. So on a $5,000 loan, total overall, maybe you're paying back $5,500, but no interest more on top of that. It's just that. That I think would be a huge difference, because people of my generation, we don't mind paying our student loans. We've been paying them for
ever.
Two decades. The problem is the principal hasn't gone down at all. Yeah. So what we need to do is we also need to retroactively apply a 0% interest rate to those with whatever the determined fee is at the beginning. So if I borrow $50,000 in student loans and I've paid $27,000 in the last, say, 12 years, then that needs to come off my principal.
Yeah.
And what we would do then also is, if you had $50,000 and you've paid $50,500, well, unfortunately, you're not going to get a refund on that $500, but your loans are gone. They're done. They're wiped out. You've paid what you borrowed.
Yeah.
The government shouldn't be getting so much interest on people trying to improve their lives.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. This says that I may be wrong. Mm-hmm. Did you write a bill already?
Yes. So my bill is the Protecting American Families from Harm Act, which is human trafficking, arms, reducing minor marriage, and cybersexual assault. So these are kind of the big things that are impacting our families and our communities. Houston is a huge hub for human trafficking. In my district alone, we have seen cases of human trafficking in Klein and Tomball, down in Cypress. Places parents wouldn't expect it. They think my area is safe, my children are safe, but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So working with federal government, local communities, the states, to develop best practices for human trafficking, giving them access to federal resources for training for their people, expanding who's required to have training on recognizing human trafficking, because you might not think about the plumber or the electrician who goes into the house to fix something, but they're going to see things people don't see.
Yeah.
And they might see a red flag, like that seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
And children as well, starting as low as 6th grade, having age appropriate conversations and education for the kids on warning signs of people you're talking to that might be trying to traffic you, and warning signs to look for of your friends. My friend over here, this has started happening. That's kind of odd. Maybe I should go talk to a teacher. So that,
like, I remember being a kid and like, don't get in the cars with strangers. Nobody, grown-ups never need your help. Don't help anybody look for a puppy. Nobody's gonna, if somebody offers you candy, don't take it. Like, when did that stop being a thing?
I have a feeling COVID has a lot to do with how like norms changed and like that, because we just stopped talking about it for like a year or so. We just stopped,
well, and so much of it has moved online. It's not this is a stranger I'm getting in the car with. I've talked to this person for the last 3 months. They're my friend. I know them. And then you go somewhere to meet them and it's not who you think it is. And children aren't as aware of these dangers. They think it's not going to happen to them. So starting that education young of what the warning signs are, of what to tell your parents, what to tell your teacher or your counselor, what to notice about your friends to try to prevent this. And that's just the human trafficking aspect. And then another part of it is child marriage. There is no reason anybody under the age of 18 should be getting married. And in some states, there's no minimum age.
Yeah.
As long as there's parental consent, some states have no minimum age. Yeah. Now, this isn't something the federal government can just mandate across the country, but you can use grants and different things to try to convince the states like, hey, if you make this law, we'll help you out with this. We'll give you this federal funding to help promote this aspect of your state, to give these securities and opportunities for your children. And then obviously we can ban it on federal property. But there's no reason anybody under the age of 18 should be getting married. And that's just increases the likelihood of long-term impacts for that child.
I know how we can stop it at a federal level. Judges can't perform it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, a lot of people can be ordained, but we could put that in the ordainment paperwork that you cannot marry anybody under a certain age. Like, there's ways I think that federally this could be.
Yeah, it'd have to be worked around and connoitered a lot. And there's been previous attempts, and I don't know how this wouldn't pass the House when people have tried it previously. Who I don't know why someone would think a child should get married.
That's so gross. Like, I don't understand why there would be somebody to put in their foot. No, let's hold off on that and have a conversation about. That's so absurd.
Because even if you're 16 and pregnant and the dad's 17, y'all can both wait till you're 18 to get married. You'll be fine.
A lot of it is cultural.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is
religious.
Yes, religious, but also an expectation, like a traditional expectation type of situation.
The old shotgun wedding.
Yeah. Shotgun wedding, or even manipulation of your children to where you don't have to pay child support anymore on them. There's lots of reasons that are not beneficial to the child themselves.
Exactly. And the key thing is we need to protect the children.
For sure.
100%.
That's the core of my campaign is kids. All of the kids of Texas, the kids across the country, they're our future, and it is our sole responsibility for as adults to keep them safe and healthy and ready to go out into the real world.
100%. 100%.
Speaking of health, right now we have this government shutdown, and a lot of it is being focused around healthcare. What are your thoughts on possibly expanding Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act?
Yeah. So right now, the health system in America it's kind of a joke. We have so many people that their healthcare and their children's healthcare depends on the job that they have. And if you don't have a good enough job, I guess you can't afford for your child to go to the doctor. And that's ridiculous. And we see what's possible. California just announced their $11 insulin shots, $55 for a whole month's supply. That is not just life-changing, life-saving.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Those are the types of things our government should be looking at. Now, ideally, I think it'd be great if we had a Medicare for all system where everybody has it, everybody has access. But the healthcare industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so we would definitely need to have a transition phase, because otherwise it's going to send shockwaves through our economy and it's going to have a lot of negative benefits. So to start off, just expanding Medicaid to whoever wants it, making it affordable, and that's part of these taxes they're trying to implement and keep in, is the cuts that you get on those premiums so that American families can actually afford to go to the doctor. So just expanding the access to it and building on that year after year so that we can actually have a good healthcare system here in America where people don't die because they can't afford their medicine.
Or at least, at the very least, some type of universal healthcare, right? Where everybody pays, $60 a month or whatever, something.
Yeah.
Anything would be better than what we have.
Mm-hmm.
You're a veteran of the National Army Guard. Thank you for your service. I want to ask if you have any thoughts on the actual VA healthcare system, and if you have any thoughts on that. Sorry.
So the VA is a great idea. A lot of people benefit from it, but navigating it is an entire monstrosity. So, for example, my father-in-law, he had an advanced form of Parkinson's from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. And thankfully, they paid for everything. But getting to that point was like climbing Mount Everest on top of 20 other mountains. And it shouldn't be that hard for our veterans to access the healthcare that they deserve and that they need. So we need to cut the red tape. We need to streamline. Right now, there's one system for VA appointments and another system for community appointments. So when you live in a rural area and can't access the VA in person, they have more community care. Mm-hmm. But navigating between those two systems can be very confusing, very difficult, and it just puts up hurdles, especially for our aging veterans who already struggle with using technology. So we need to streamline all of it to its one place. Yeah. We need to have better access so that they can understand what's going on. And when it comes to hiring, because that's a huge problem, is they're so understaffed. And when you apply, it could take a year to get the job started. We need to cut the red tape and the bureaucracy in the hiring process so that we can get good workers, because they don't pay as well as private, but there's a lot of benefits. A lot of people want to work for the VA. But they can't sit around for a year waiting to hear if they're going to get hired. And I see that a lot in education as well, that the hiring process is so slow, you lose good candidates.
Yeah. Or they undercut them. I have a neighbor that just started working as a nurse at the VA, and she was with the same place for almost 12 years and got on as a nurse there, but they put her as a lower level, like a level 2 or something like that. And she was supposed to be like a level 4. Because of her, based off of her
training and time and service.
Well, they didn't even take that into account. They were just they didn't take the amount of time that she was in her job. They're actually paying her like a CNA, and she's a nurse.
Oh,
she's been doing it for 12 years. And they're like, well, we went off of your job history because she had the same job. And so it looked like that she only had one job this whole time, but she did. But she did it for 12 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have experience, a lot of experience, but you're not paying me the correct way. And then when she went back and told them like, hey, y'all messed up. And then they're like, there's nothing we can do about it. You're kind of stuck at that now. And so it's like, she's like, I just took a huge pay cut.
Yeah.
Like a huge, massive pay cut. That was not what I was promised. You know what I mean? And they're not willing to go back and fix it. And so it's like, you can't do things like that to people. You can't. If somebody is worth something, then you have to pay them for that. You have to compensate them for that, even if you're the government.
Yeah. So,
We can't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the bureaucracy. Is it shouldn't be that hard to talk to someone to get it figured out. And when we have these issues, you're losing such amazing people who can give our veterans the care and the compassion and the service they deserve. They should be treated so well at the VA, but when they're understaffed, they're not.
Yeah.
It almost seems like it's designed that way, and it's designed to make veterans give up in the end, because I know for sure, you know, those hold times and the wait times and stuff can be sometimes hours
Yes.
before you get a call back. But when you do talk to somebody, they're actually, these people are so kind, and they're so, like, they love their job. And I mean, I can understand if the VA has a standard, but at the same time, when there's people who just straight up give up and they're literally dying, people are dying, waiting, you know, for help. It becomes an issue for sure. And I
that's
think,
part of with it also with the mental health.
Mhm.
They need to have a streamlined process to just get into the VA,
Mhm.
because there's a whole process of having to show your service. What's my disability? What's my payment going to be? Do I get free VA? Do I have to pay? That is a long process just to access the VA. So if you're going through a mental health crisis and you need help, you're not going to be able to process that for weeks or even months. Now, it's quicker if you can go in person, if you're lucky enough to have a VA within distance of you. So we need to also create a process where if it's a mental health issue, here's my DD 214 and my driver's license. Get me help now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of hospitals, insurance, things like that, you've been pretty outspoken about women's rights and bodily autonomy and the 14th Amendment and all of these different things. Can you explain to us like what that looks like for what kinds of things that you think that the government should implement to protect these things?
So first and foremost, abortion is healthcare. There are there's much higher death maternity rate here in Texas since they put in the anti-abortion laws.
Yeah.
And just because someone is getting an abortion doesn't mean that is not a loved, cherished, wanted child. But unfortunately, things happen in pregnancies. Things happen that mean that pregnancy is no longer going to be sustainable, that the child's not going to survive. And if the mother carries the pregnancy, it's going to possibly kill her. And doctors are between a rock and a hard place right now in Texas of, well, I can't perform this abortion because the child still has a heartbeat, even though we know they're not going to survive. We know that they're degrading, but we have to wait until mom is in like practically sepsis and like on death's door before we can do something. And that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a federal government, we need to codify Roe v. Wade, that up until this point, abortion is legal and protected, that you cannot deny someone their healthcare access.
Yeah.
And part of that as well is the interstate commerce, where if I want to go to another state that does allow me access to this, and I come back to Texas, I should not be able to be prosecuted, which is what Texas wants to do. Yeah. Even though I went somewhere and did something legal in another state.
Right.
We need to codify Roe v. Wade into law to ensure that women have access to their health care that they desperately need. And if you are truly pro-life, because women don't like abortions. I don't know why there's this conception in people's head that we like abortions. We don't. We don't want to have one.
Or like people are using them for birth control or something. And I'm like,
exactly.
What are you talking about?
Like, it's convenient. Like, if you could just go and put a quarter in a machine and like get an abortion, you know, it's
instead of the fact that it's a very uncomfortable procedure and it's not something we want to do. So if you want to actually be pro-life, then they need to be pro-life. Where are the supports for the mother when the baby is born?
Yes.
Where is the paid time off? We have no guaranteed paid time off in this country, and we're one of the few modern countries in the world that don't. So if we want to be pro-life, we need to be pro-life. Because if you're going to have a baby, childcare alone is practically a mortgage payment. So codifying that into law, codifying our rights for our LGBTQ family. There is no reason two adults who are legally able to consent because of their age, are mentally able to consent because they don't have any serious mental health conditions like intellectual disability, and they're not being coerced. Do you get married? That's your business.
Yeah.
It's not anybody else's business if all three of those conditions are met.
100%. And a family unit looks
Exactly.
like a family. I mean, it could be grandparents. When I was in school, I don't know how old you are, but when I was in school, I remember having actual lessons on like everybody's family looks different. Like maybe two grandparents are raising their grandkids, or maybe this person has two moms or two dads, or maybe this person has only a mom and a grandma, or you know what I mean? Like the family unit is different for everybody.
Yeah, families come in all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds.
Yeah.
Just because the family is this color on one side doesn't mean they're all going to be the same race. Like, it's so intermixed in our modern society that it's just how it is. And just let families be families and be kind and support thy neighbor. That's the first commandment, is love thy neighbor. You're not the first. It's one of the commandments, is love thy neighbor.
So right now there's obviously with the ICE deportations and all the, I guess, the civil unrest in some of our neighborhoods. What are your thoughts on strengthening the 14th Amendment, and how do you feel about how it's being I guess taken care of right now?
So due process is a constitutional right for anybody within the borders of the United States. It's not if you're a citizen, it is if you are within the borders of the United States. So we need to ensure that we are actually following that and following the Constitution. Our current leaders, unfortunately, are not. When I enlisted, I swore to protect and defend the Constitution. My opponent, Mr. Hunt, is also a veteran. He swore to protect and defend the Constitution, but he doesn't. He supports mass deportations. And if we can deny rights for one person, we can deny them for anybody.
Absolutely.
100%.
So we need to ensure that we are following that. We need to put in better protections of making sure everybody's getting equal and fair treatment under the law and getting their due process, their day in court. Because here's the thing. Everybody agrees. If it is a dangerous person, whether they're here legal or not, we don't want them just running around. If there's someone running around committing murder, everybody doesn't want that person on the street committing murder. Now, I don't want them deported. I want them to go through trial, and I want them to sit in jail and rot, where we know where they are and we know they're not coming back. Because if we just put them on a bus and say they're a murderer and fly them out or ship them out somewhere, we don't know if they're going to come back here.
Exactly.
So if they're actual dangerous people, then we need to put them through the system and put them through trial and have them deal with the consequences.
You know, it's funny that you bring up the Constitution, because I feel like a lot of people forget not only what the Constitution is, but I feel like a lot of people don't like the Constitution for what it is now. Like the 14th Amendment. It's in the Constitution. It's in the Constitution, and we have people kicking people out and in mass, and it's those aren't and you're correct, those aren't the oaths, those aren't the values that you swore to protect. And it's crazy that someone like Wesley Hunt is just able to do that as a veteran and spout this stuff off as a veteran. It's
so disheartening.
Yeah.
There's lots of veterans that are the leaders of our country that are doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Ronnie Jackson.
And they need to remember the actual Constitution, like the fact of checks and balances. That's another big thing, is ensuring when I go to Congress does Congress's job. The president does the president's job, and the judiciary do the judiciary job. We can't have executive leeching into the other branches. There's a reason our founders put the checks and balances in place, because they lived through having a king, having a monarch who could decide whatever he wanted. And that's not okay.
Agreed. Sorry, I forgot my question I had just a second ago. Okay. So how are you? So you said that you're in Houston.
Yes.
How are you campaigning? Like, how are you pulling undecided votes, or people that are independent, or even maybe even people from the opposite side of the spectrum? Do you feel like that you're being able to, because a lot of this to me seems like you're very independent minded, and that, I mean, same, right? For the
Yeah.
people, not for policy, right? We've got to build policies that support the people, don't attack the people. And so do you feel like that you're being able to reach them, and do you have a message for the ones that haven't decided yet who they're voting for?
Yeah, for sure. So we do a lot of door knocking, a lot of one-on-one conversations. And when you have those conversations, the thing is, we all want the same thing. We all want our children to be safe, and we all want our shot at the American dream. Being able to work a full-time job and have a decent living, being able to go to the doctor when we're sick and not lose our house over it, being able to have our children go to safe, quality schools. These are all things all Americans can agree on. Now, how we get there is where we have the disagreements, but we got to start at where we agree. Yes. And we're not that different left from right. We all want that. Yeah. So I just start at that base level of connecting, and I'm here to support the people. It's not about what the party wants. It's not about getting power for myself. It's not about getting onto the news and being a talking head to divide the nation and blame everything on the other side, which unfortunately we see a lot of politicians do. That does nothing for our people. That does nothing to help the District of 38. What does help is reaching across the aisle and talking to the people on the other side and coming up with a compromise. Yeah. Because 50% of what I want is a lot better than 0%. Yeah. And it's going to have a bigger impact on the lives of my constituents than if I do nothing.
Right. So representation over being a politician.
Yeah, exactly. You're there for the people, not for your power, not for the party, for the people to make their lives better and safer.
100%.
So when you're out talking to the people, what kind of feedback are you getting? Are you getting in response to, I guess, whenever you're going out and interacting?
So it's mixed sometimes, but in general, usually pretty good positivity around schools. That, yeah, we want our schools safe. We want our kids to get a good education. And we don't want the government interfering a whole lot in schools. Let the teachers teach, let the kids learn, and just keep it a safe place. And that's something all Americans can agree on. And the vast majority of Americans, they want their teachers to have a positive relationship with their students. You know, oh, hey, I love Miss So-and-so's class. It's so fun in there. I mean, she makes me do a lot of work, but it's a good class. Parents like to hear that from their students. And that's where I connect with at them and start the conversation is what we have in common. And for everybody, it's the kids.
Yeah. Do you feel like that people are becoming more engaged in politics and civics, stuff like that? Do you feel like that people are starting to engage a lot more than what they used to?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot more conversations being had because when you look at the news, like I said, it's such divisiveness, and that's not what America wants. And it's so disheartening to people, and they're starting to push back, and that's on both sides. Yeah. You know, you have people that are traditional Republicans that have been Republicans since Bush, and they're not very happy with how things are looking. And you have your Democrats who are super liberal or conservative Democrats, and they don't like how things are looking. So we're really just looking for that new voice that'll bring compassion and strength to Washington, D.C. And I can be that voice for everybody.
That's awesome. Do you have a message that you want to leave for your viewers or for anybody in your district?
Yeah. Please go check out my website, courtsforcongress.com. We have some great events coming up so you can meet me in person and you can see what this movement is about, what people over politics truly means, because together we can make real change. We can make our schools safe for our students. We can make the American dream accessible again, and we can make sure that everybody has the opportunity to succeed. They're not drowning under rising costs of housing, rising costs of childcare, rising food costs. We can make life livable again.
We all want that. Everybody. I just want to live my life, and exactly what you're saying, the American dream. I just want I was told as a child that when I turned like 50 something after working all of this time, that I was going to be able to retire and, do what my grandpa did and my grandma did and, stay at home and hang out with my grandkids and maybe go on vacation every once in a while. And like, you just want to live the life, even if it's not a super fancy life. Like, I just want to be happy. And I think that's what most people want. They just want to be happy again.
They just want to be happy and not stress over every single bill. Yeah. They don't need, most Americans, they don't want fancy vacations. They're good at doing a long weekend trip in the state as long as they can afford food. Their kid can go to school. They're not working 3-4 jobs just to afford rent and put food on the table, because that's not a life.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
We've been interviewing a lot of people, and what we're finding out with a lot of the new candidates or the up and coming candidates is, y'all are just normal people like us, and it seems like the leaders and the politicians that are in there now are so disconnected from just regular people like us. And I think you're right. A lot of it is just common ground, finding that common ground, and building off of that. Because I think whatever system that they think they had running before, it's run its course already. And I think with this new batch of candidates and how everybody is so focused and hyper vigilant now about what's going on, I mean, I want to say that hopefully everything will be, great in the long run. I think it will, because there's so much like grassroots involvement, and there's so many just normal people, regular citizens, showing
and that's
interest
what
in it.
We need regular people in Congress who understands what we're going through. Not someone who has millions of dollars and probably hasn't gone to HEB in years on his own shopping for the family.
Yeah.
You don't see prices of food rising day after day. Like, I just paid $1 for this bread last week. Why is it $1.25 now?
Yeah. Yeah. And when you have, like, to be realistic here, a lot of people have to, you need money when you're campaigning, right? Yeah. Like, if anybody that is watching does not realize this, when candidates are asking for money, they're not asking for money because they need to be, another billionaire. They're not putting this money into their pockets. You need money for gas, to drive back and forth or around wherever your district is. You need it for services. So like business cards and, yard signs and palm cards and all of the things, all of that costs money. Your website costs money, right? The hosting of your website, the building of your website, having a team, because you cannot do this by yourself. All of these things cost money. And so when they're asking you for money, donate to a grassroots candidate, you guys. Don't donate to billionaires, because they can literally spend the money that they currently have and do all of this and still be totally fine. Like, it's nothing to them. When you have grassroots candidates, these people are teachers, they're counselors, the money that they're pulling out to teach your kids are also the same amount of money that they're campaigning with, right? So support grassroots candidates no matter what, because that's the only way that you're going to get any change. If you're still supporting the same people that are in office currently, if your life has not changed since that person has been in office, that's because you voted for them again. Stop voting for them. Find somebody new. Back that person. Make sure that you make some donations. Good donations, right?
And even $5 can make such a difference for candidates like me, where my opponent has a multi-million-dollar war chest.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's not concerned about making his constituents happy, because he's going to get plenty of money from his big donors.
Yeah. I mean, even them being in office, like, to me, the amount of money that a House representative makes, what is it, 200 or is it 175,000 a year or something like that?
174,000.
That's not a lot of money. It seemed to me that's a ton of money. To my representative, that's nothing. That's nothing to him. It's nothing to a lot of the people that are there, because they were born with the silver spoon in their mouths, and the donors actually make that money way more. The amount of money that they're getting paid is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. So to us, that would be a life-changing amount, right? Like that's double what me and my husband both make at a full-time job,
Yeah.
right? But still, that's why I'm saying, like, these people, everybody needs to understand that the people that are in office right now do not care about $5.
No.
You care about $5. I would care about $5. But $5 to them is nothing. They care about that. You might as well be like licking a stamp and giving it to them. Like, they don't care. It's nothing.
It's the penny they're going to walk past on the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wouldn't even pick it up for sure. So yeah, make sure that you're supporting grassroots. There is also another thing that we do on this podcast. We ask, or the last candidate that we interviewed left a question for you, and the one that I sent you was the wrong one. So Tobar is going to read to you the right one, and then we're going to ask you to leave a question for the next candidate, and it can be anything you want. It doesn't have to be about politics. It doesn't have to be about anything.
And when I say it could be about anything, this is your question. Have you ever had a time period in your life where your socks never matched?
Probably college. In the military, they definitely matched because it's just always green. But college, there was a lot of pajamas being worn to class for my 7, 8 a.m. classes, and you just grab whatever's in the drawer for socks.
I think who was that? Chelsea? Was her name Chelsea?
Yes, I forgot her last name.
I can't remember what her last name was.
I don't want to butcher it.
She's pretty young, and so as soon as she asked that, all I could think about, I'm 41, and I remember buying my daughters when they were in high school the like mismatched, like you buy the socks mismatched.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought that that's maybe what she was talking about, but also maybe could have been like a chaos. Like, how chaotic has your life actually been that you never had mismatched socks?
I was kind of like, my socks never match. Like, one has a hole in it and one doesn't. They never match.
Yeah. If you just go with all the same color, then they always match.
Right. Exactly. Did you want to leave a question for our next person?
Yes. Let's see. What is your happiest memory, and how does that impact your current life?
I like that.
Oh, that's a really good question.
That's
probably the most thought-provoking question we've had. I like the ones where people have to sit and think about it.
Yeah, that's a good one. We can do a whole episode on that one. All right, Miss Theresa Courts, thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I really wish you all the luck in the world. Wesley Hunt, I feel, has lost his way.
Yes.
As a veteran, I would say, but I wish you all the luck in the world. Again, where can everybody find you?
Courtsforcongress.com. COURTS for Congress.com.
Sounds great. All right. Thank you so much again. All right. And thank you, everybody.